What I want you to do is to thank you for listening to this DVD. As I said before, there's a lot of important concepts and ideas in this, and even if you started doing just a little bit of it, you would begin to find that your performance in key areas of your life would improve. One of the things that we will cover in a separate DVD is other things that completes this almost cockpit of dials to look after motivation, how we think, how we get our goals. So to summarize what we've covered is, we've had a look about how setting beginning frames, we've had a look at the importance of state, the mental, physical moods that we're in, the importance of setting goals. We don't always need to set goals, but if it's important, it's worth setting goals because they keep us motivated. It's getting into rapport with people, so we have an open centre of communication when it's appropriate. It's be able to ask detailed questions about what people are doing now, not in any critical way, but in order for them to explore what they're doing now, so they can find out for themselves ways that they can improve their performance. The idea of a future pace, getting people to imagine themselves doing small bits of behaviour at a time that's appropriate in the future, because by doing that imagination, they're then much more likely to do those behaviours. And finally, an end frame where we close the session down. The bits that we haven't covered in this DVD, but we will cover later, which you may choose to use or not, are things like values, what's important to somebody, what's really important to somebody. Not like values at work where somebody puts a thing up on a list, but what really motivates you in different contexts. Your beliefs, what beliefs you have about a situation, whether what you believe, the assumptions that you make actually help you perform or they hinder you. Have a look about how we use our senses. Basically, all the information we get from the outside world is through our senses. And the more open we are about taking that information in, the more choices we have. And it's also learning how we can almost, in a way, use our senses and use the information from our senses to empower us or disempower us. And the more ability we have to do that, there again, the more easy we find it to achieve what we want. There's the fascinating topic about hypnotic language. Now, in a work context, we don't necessarily want to put people into different trances or things of that sort of ilk. However, the gentle use of hypnotic language can get people to do things easily that they found difficult before, and it can get people to connect with their internal resources. How we play with time. Sometimes in looking at a project, if you project yourself in time to when you've achieved it, and then work back to the present and work out what the steps were almost from the future backwards, it can be easier to make very big step changes. Something else we'll look at is the power of stories. All through history and times, the way people have communicated complex information through stories has enabled people to learn and change. And finally, the idea of modelling. Although it's the last thing I'm going to talk about in this DVD, one of the most powerful ways of improving is just being aware and looking around at who is successful now, and at the simplest level, just asking them questions about what they do. NLP modelling is much more than that, because I say the simplest tack is simply finding out who does things well and asking them questions. However, there is a much more detailed view where we end up learning as we were with children. If you want to take on complex behaviours, sometimes you want to model somebody, you almost want to relax, soften, and just be aware of what they're doing, because you can almost get back to learning like a child. And it's a very good way of learning complex behaviours. But that's something we're going to do in the future. I'd really like to thank you for watching this, and I really wish you huge success.